Part 36. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 351. No one expected that the battle of the third line of defense would end in this way. Without the Forgotten and the King level, the army of Loren-Star was in disarray. Soon they were all annihilated in despair. The soldiers of the Third Legion stood there blankly, thinking that it would be a bloody battle, and they were ready to sacrifice. But it ended in this way. Well done, Wuxin. Su Xian walked to Wuxin and patted his shoulder. The latter remained silent. In front, one Forgotten after another fell, and all the soul particles flew back to Wuxin. Can't you control it all the time? Su Xian had expected the result long ago. If Wuxin could control so many puppets all the time, it would be terrible. One person could be equal to an army. Unable to control but let the soul particles assist in the battle. This is more like a friendship. Su Xian was thoughtful. He often saw Lao Ba talking to himself on the courtyard wall, immersed in his own world like a madman. Perhaps, that was not the world he imagined. It is a real world. Maybe in Lao Ba's eyes, every soul particle is alive, and they are all his friends. That's why he lives happily. The appearance of all things in the world is my appearance, and the heart of all things in the world is not the original heart. Wuxin can live in this world instead of all the obsessions between heaven and earth, but no matter what kind of appearance he lives in this world, he still can't find himself. Su Xian didn't ask any more questions. Wuxin didn't seem to like communication, or he couldn't communicate with him too much. Coming to the battlefield full of corpses, Su Xian waved his hand and collected the corpses of the forgotten people whose spiritual marks were erased. This thing may be useful for Qing Qing. Beside him, Lin Suiying was also a little confused. In the previous battle, he was in a paddling state throughout. Although she stayed with Su Xian day and night, she had not experienced Su Xian's full combat power. Obviously, Su Xian was stronger than she thought. Su Xian in full strength might be equal to her combat power when she opened the fourth rune. King Chongming and King Wenel also rushed over. Thanks to King Qinji and King Shuiyu for their help. Looking at Su Xian again, the two of them already had deep awe in their eyes. In their eyes, this man already had the ability to change the entire battle situation by himself. King Chongming sighed inwardly. Su and Lin are really the fortune of Blue Star. Lin Suiying took on the heavy responsibility before the war, and Su Xian took on the burden after the war. The achievements of the couple are enough to be called turning the tide. Don't be polite, we are also doing our part for the human race. Su Xian said solemnly, Lowland Star's means are definitely not limited to these. You must be careful. We have to support other fronts, so we won't stay here any longer. He also saw the top king of Lowland Star launching the last words of life when he was dying. I'm afraid that Lowland Star will get the news soon. It will be difficult to have such a total annihilation war at that time. With such a profound foundation, it is impossible for Lowland Star to rely solely on the Forgotten to decide the victory. Lowland Star should give him special care next. Blue Star's 15th defense line. Outside the defense line, the black mass of Lowland Star's army is pressing in. The one stationed at the Legion base is the Scorpion King. As a marshal, the Scorpion King knows very well that this defense line and the 13th defense line are the two weakest defense lines of Blue Star, and they are jointly guarded by more than a dozen small and medium-sized countries. He is also prepared, knowing that Lowland Star will definitely launch the most violent attack on the two weak defense lines. The Blue Star Alliance promised to give them key support, but they don't know the details, and they have no idea. Looking at the Lowland Star army pressing in, the Scorpion King looked solemn. 3 high-level Forgotten, 1 top king, 3 ordinary kings, 36 ordinary Forgotten, and 10 marquises. The opponent's high-end combat power can be seen at a glance. Start the protection array. The Scorpion King was nervous. Given the enemy's formation, if the Blue Star Alliance had no support, even with the protective formation, it would probably not be able to hold out for too long. Kill! 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 The army of Lulanstar was filled with murderous intent and launched an attack on the protective formation. All kinds of magic spells came overwhelmingly. The defensive crystal was operating at its limit, and the energy stored for many years was being consumed rapidly. Once the energy was exhausted, the joint army led by the Scorpion King would probably be crushed in an instant. Aren't the reinforcements of the Blue Star Alliance going to take action? The Scorpion King was anxious. Boom! Just as he was worried, a white skeleton shadow with a sickle on his shoulder fell from the sky. The white skeleton giant sickle swept across. The top king of Lulanstar snorted coldly, and together with 3 high-level Forgotten Ones, they forced the white skeleton general to retreat. Wuan King Baisha. Seeing the arrival, the Scorpion King breathed a sigh of relief. As the strongest country on Blue Star, Longguo has many top warriors. Now with Suxian, King Wuan can also support other defense lines. After the attack, King Wuan immediately retreated to the range of the protective formation. He did not dare to be arrogant. After all, the opponent has 4 top king-level combat forces. Blue Star's 13th defense line. As a place as famous as the 15th defense line, it also encountered a fierce attack from the Lulanstar army. The one guarding here is King Explosive Tiger. He also opened the formation immediately, waiting for the assistance of the Blue Star Alliance. As long as there is a top king to help, it will be no problem to cooperate with the protective formation to hold on. But the Blue Star Alliance's plan is very strict. Before the war, no one knows what the strategy of the mobile support group is. The members of the mobile support group are also unclear about each other's tasks. This is also to prevent traitors from leaking the plan, causing Blue Star to lose everything. Tactical deployment is particularly important in such a war. If the strategic deployment is known to the enemy, it is easy for the enemy to find the weakest point to break through. Hello. King Explosive Tiger was worried when a figure suddenly appeared next to him. Who are you? King Explosive Tiger was startled. Looking at the other party's unremarkable appearance, he didn't recognize which king it was for a while. Big Demon King. The Big Demon King wearing dog pajamas still had a dull look in his eyes and only replied with 3 words. King Explosive Tiger was shocked. How could he not expect that the one who came to support him would be the Big Demon King who was known as the best king? He had never seen the Great Demon King. But the opponent's aura had already told him the answer. As both were crowned kings, only the Great Demon King could give him such a terrifying sense of oppression. Perhaps, the Thousand Machine King could do the same. However, in his subconscious, he trusted the Great Demon King a little more. I will forcibly take away all the top combat forces of the other side later. You should pay attention to the timing of entering the field. The Great Demon King left a word and disappeared. The Explosive Tiger King was about to refute, but he saw the Great Demon King appear above the army of Lulanstar. He was dumbfounded. Is this guy crazy? Without relying on the protective formation, he resisted 4 top crowned king level combat forces plus 2 ordinary crowned kings and a bunch of crowned marquises. Is the crowned king so unreliable? Or is his vision too low? 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 352. Big Devil. Seeing the Big Devil with a dull face and a cheerful style that was incompatible with the bloody battlefield, the people on the Lulanstar side were facing a formidable enemy. Before the Thousand Machine King Suxian broke through the 45th floor of the Death Tower, the Big Devil was the strongest king in the eyes of the Blue Star. In the past history, all opponents who had fought against the Big Devil had only one consequence: death. There was not even an escape. Facing the Big Devil, the top king of Lulanstar looked solemn. He knew very well that there was a gap between the top kings. Game start. The big devil looked at all the high-end combat forces in the army and said, "Player binding. Scene construction." Behind him, a huge world phantom descended. Although the high-end combat forces of Lulin Star were prepared to resist, they were instantly pulled into the world phantom. The scene in front of them changed. Mechanical and electronic sounds rang in their ears. "Welcome to my world. Player information confirmed. Game loading complete." They looked up and saw a completely different space. The bloody battlefield disappeared, replaced by a pixel-style scene. The armies of both sides also disappeared. On their side, only high-end combat forces of the rank of Marquis and above were left, while the other side only had one great demon king. "Are we going to force a one-on-many fight?" The top-ranking king of Lulin Star was not too scared. If it was a one-on-one fight, he might be afraid, but with 3 high-level Forgotten Ones and so many Marquis, they had the ability to surround and kill the Great Demon King. At this time, the Great Demon King was also looking at them. In the eyes of the Great Demon King, the high-end combat forces of Lulin Star had more red blood bars on their heads than before. Some were long and some were short, and the longest one was the top-ranking king of Lulin Star. Game start. The mechanical electronic sound sounded again. Around the Great Demon King, circles of pixel special effects appeared, which seemed funny, but made the top combat forces of Lulin Star all become terrified. Because they could feel that the aura of the Great Demon King was constantly increasing. The fragmented buffs were stacked up countless times. Swish. The next moment, the Great Demon King had appeared above them. He punched down. Led by the top king and 3 high-level Forgotten Ones, the others, with their high-end combat power, resisted reasonably and barely blocked the punch. But it also shook their bodies and made their muscles and bones ache. The Great Demon King swept his eyes away. With one punch, the combat power of the Marquis of Lulin Star had been reduced by more than half. Double power punch. He punched down again. The health of several Marquis was instantly reduced to the bottom, and several were killed on the spot, turning into pixels and integrating into this joyful game world. How can it be so strong? The top king of Lulin Star was panicked. In this weird pixel world, his power seemed to be greatly restricted. Although he had exerted his full strength, the damage caused to the Great Demon King was negligible. The key is that he still cannot break the rules of this world. Being forcibly bound to the enemy's territory made him despair. Boom! Another punch came. The Great Demon King did not have any fancy moves, only one punch. The 3 high-level Forgotten Ones opened fire at full power. The top king of Lulin Star also forcibly attracted the power of the outside world, trying to disrupt the rules of this world. But in the eyes of the Great Demon King, they were just monsters with decreasing health bars. They were not even qualified to be labeled as boss, at most they were elite monsters. The Forgotten Ones fell one by one. The Marquises died tragically. The kings gradually lost their strength. They all turned into pixels and became part of the rules of this game world. Outside, the armies of both sides looked at the suddenly disappeared Great Demon King and a group of high-end combat forces of the 10,000 races, and they fell into a brief stagnation. But soon the Legion Marshal Explosive Tiger King reacted. At this time, he had no intention of thinking about where the Great Demon King had gone. He only knew that Lulin Star was leaderless at the moment, and it was the best time to annihilate the enemy. Kill. The Explosive Tiger King led the charge. When the Great Demon King and the high-level Forgotten were there, he was a kitten, but now he is a ferocious tiger. The army of Lulin Star is a lamb to be slaughtered. Without the support of high-end combat power, Lulin Star's army will inevitably be slaughtered no matter how strong it is. When the attacking party is defeated, there is no way out. Under the leadership of the Explosive Tiger King, the army of Lulin Star was killed and scattered, and only a few well-trained elites relied on the blood array to barely support it. Unfortunately, the temporary blood array is completely incomparable to the real protective array. No matter what, it is just a dying struggle. They are still holding on. Looking forward to the Marshal to kill the Great Demon King and return. Holding on again and again. Until the army was about to be destroyed, the space fluctuations above the sky finally appeared again. The explosive Tiger King and the soldiers of Blue Star also became nervous. In a battle of that level, they couldn't tell who would win or lose. The spatial fluctuations dissipated. There was only one figure standing there. When they saw that figure, the last glimmer of light in the eyes of those soldiers who fought desperately on Lowland Star also dissipated, and only despair remained. Their high-end combat power was actually annihilated by a great demon king? I came to this battlefield with confidence, but in the end I could only leave with despair. They now only hope that when Blue Star's strongest king is delayed here, the strongest people from Lowland Star can also give Blue Star the heaviest blow. Avenge them. The base camp of Lowland Star in the battlefield of two worlds, the general combat headquarters of all races. Daisy, the great prophet of the Dark Elves, is one of the top commanders of this war because she can collect all the feedback information on the battlefield the fastest. Even though she had failed in the operation in the Eternal Forest, she was still sought after by many powerful people in the Council of all races. In front of Daisy, a dark purple ball of light was suspended. Blue Star's third line of defense, Thousand Machine King appears. Blue Star's 15th line of defense, King Wuan appears. Blue Star's 13th line of defense, the Big Devil appears. Daisy continued to read the information fed back to her from all sides on the battlefield. In her eyes, there were only two people in Blue Star who could be called threats. That is Thousand Machines King Su Xian and the Great Demon King. Especially Su Xian, who almost stepped on her face step by step to get to where he is today. She hated Su Xian even more than she paid attention to this war. She will definitely find an opportunity to kill Su Xian. That day won't be long. The more Su Xian performs on the battlefield of the two realms, the closer he is to his death. Now let this person jump for a moment. She kept chanting spells in her mouth, and the dark purple light ball glowed. Shivare, Kuro, the positions of the Blue Star Thousand Machine King and the Great Demon King have been determined, and the plan has been confirmed. Please try to win them as quickly as possible. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 353. Blue Star's fifth line of defense. This place is jointly guarded by Kimchi Country, Sakura Country, and several small countries. The Marshal of the Guarding Legion is one of the top kings of Blue Star, the Ghost King from Sakura Kingdom. As the top king, with the blessing of the protective formation, Tongui King is full of confidence at this moment. Even if there are 4 top kings on the opposite side, he has no fear. Outside the defense line, behind the Lowland Star Army, there was a figure made of blood looking forward with a smile. His pupils shone with dark purple light. Thank you, Your Majesty Daisy, for providing the information. Leave the rest to me. The blood-red figure is none other than Shivare, the most powerful king of Lowland Star, who comes from the vampire clan. He is also the only strong man in Lowland Star who has passed through the 45th floor of the Tower of Death with the King Realm. After receiving Daisy's confirmation, Shivare, the Blood King, stepped toward the 5th line of defense. A sea of blood appeared behind him at some point. The waves in the sea of blood surged wildly and continued to spread. Wherever it passes, all materials are turned into nutrients for the sea of blood. With Shivare as the center, the sea of blood swallowed up the territory with a radius of thousands of miles, reflecting the entire 5th line of defense in a strange red. What's that? The Tongui King guarding the defense line has a third pupil between his eyebrows, and he has a keen sense of danger. The sea of blood has not yet approached, and his heart is already beating crazily. Open. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately activated his secret technique, opening the third eye between his eyebrows and looking into the distance. A sea of crimson blood rolled towards the Legion base. In the sea of blood, he saw a pair of eyes. Those eyes also sensed his prying eyes. Shivari. The Ghost King Tong broke into a cold sweat. The one attacking the fifth line of defense turned out to be Shivari, the strongest king of Lowland Star. Complete retreat. He immediately issued the order. In the battle between Blue Star and Lowland Star, no Lauren Star King defeated the Big Demon King, and no Blue Star King survived Shivari. The Ghost King Tong has an instinctive fear of Shivari. Because before him, the strongest king of Sakura Kingdom died tragically at the hands of Shivari. Facing the notorious Shivari, even with the blessing of a protective formation, he could not guarantee that he could stop him. In addition to being powerful, Shivari's life form is also very special. It can even be said to have immortality. There was once a saying circulated in Blue Star's kingship circle, unless the sea of blood dries up, Shivari will never die. If we were to say who was most likely to break through Blue Star's 17 lines of defense, Shivari, whose vitality was almost endless, was the most likely one. Soon, the soldiers of Star Lowland saw the sea of blood coming from the ground and gradually occupying the entire battlefield. The Lowland Star Army marched forward on bloody water. After they are killed, their bodies will merge into the sea of blood. Then a blood puppet will crawl out of the sea of blood and continue to attack Blue Star's protective array. The Blue Star soldiers felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. The sea of blood that spread thousands of miles made them feel a sense of despair. Tongui King did not hesitate and immediately sent out a rescue message. Boom! Waves surged in the sea of blood, slapping against the defensive crystal. Every slap will cause the energy of the defense crystal to be greatly consumed. The original aura around Tongui King stirred. Dense eyes sprouted from his body. Purple beams of light shot out from these eyes and continued to blast towards the sea of blood. Although it was very powerful, it still seemed a bit insignificant compared to the huge sea of blood. There are even blood drops that have spread into the Legion base. Hold on! Hold on! The Ghost King Tong roared hysterically. He doesn't want to die here. Dying here is a great shame for the people of Sakura country. He can be defeated, but he will never accept such a defeat. Give up. Blue Star human race. Become a member of the Blood Sea, and you will become the supreme blood life. Shivari's laughter echoed in the ears of the Blue Star soldiers. The third pupil between the Tongui King's brows bloomed, and there were patterns in his eyes. A huge eye appeared behind him and slowly opened. God's gaze. His other two eyes were closed, and blood flowed from the closed eyes. This move is his strongest move. Putting the honor of being the strongest king of Sakura Kingdom on the line, he must not fail here. The huge eyes behind him emitted a gray light. The entire Legion base was covered with a layer of gray light, which was temporarily isolated from the impact of the Blood Sea. But Tongui King knew that facing the endless sea of blood, he could only block it for a moment. If King Thousand Machines and the Great Demon King didn't come, no one would be able to stop Shivari, the incarnation of the Sea of Blood. The Blue Star's 8th line of defense. This is where the Bear Country, one of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, is stationed. The Marshal of the Legion sitting here is the top king, the Mad Lion King. In the Legion base, the Crazy Lion King closed his eyes and rested. Facing this defensive battle, he had absolute confidence. After all, if he couldn't defend it personally, Blue Star would have lost its chance of winning. After all, he is also one of the top 5 among all current Blue Star Kings. Looking at the Lowland Star Army in the distance, the burly Mad Lion King stood at the top of the protective formation, looking at each other with contempt. Today, as long as Shivari from the Blood Sea doesn't come, he has absolute confidence to hold on. The crazy Lion King glanced over. Finally, it was fixed on a fighter plane with a strange shape. There was a goblin sitting on the fighter plane. King Kuro of Goblin. The Mad Lion King recognized the identity of his opponent. The Goblin King was born in a humble family, but he set foot on the road to becoming the strongest person on Lulan Star step by step. On Lulan Star, the Goblin King's strength was enough to rank in the top 5. But that was all. He felt that his strength was not inferior to Kuro, and was even stronger, because Kuro could sit on the throne of the top king not entirely by his own strength. But it was a set of top technology. On the fighter plane, the short Kuro looked at the defense line of the bear country, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. On the stone tablet of the Death Tower, his ranking was indeed not high. But except for a few senior officials, other strong men did not know how powerful he was when he really used all the crazy technology. Even he himself did not know. This moment was the best time to verify it. Hee. Kuro laughed strangely, and the power of the origin flowed into the fighter plane, pressing a button. Whoosh! A missile was fired. Boom! The missile exploded on the protective shield. Zzz zzz. The sound of electricity was heard. The Mad Lion King, who had been calm, was horrified the next moment. Because he felt that the connection between himself and the protective formation was cut off in an instant. Although it was only a moment, he knew very well what this moment meant. The Goblin King actually controlled the means to make the protective formation ineffective? If so, this battle is in jeopardy. The reason why Blue Star was able to hold on under absolute disadvantages was all due to the support of the protective formation. Without the protective formation, the Blue Star Alliance could not hold on for too long. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 354. Swoosh. Another missile was fired. The Mad Lion King did not dare to allow the Goblin King Kuro to attack him anymore, and turned into a huge mad lion and charged outside the formation. He suddenly slapped the missile with one claw. Boom! The missile exploded. The protective formation was disturbed again. Even his body felt a little numb. Chaos aura. After personal contact, the Mad Lion King keenly noticed that there was a mystery hidden in the fighter plane that the Goblin King was riding, and the weapon launched actually had a chaotic aura. What kind of technology is so powerful? Even if the entire fighter plane is made of chaos stone as the basic material, it should not be able to do this. Kuro's fighter plane must have a mystery that Blue Star has never touched. Under Kuro's leadership, the army of Lauren Star has launched a full-scale attack. The protective formation has been disturbed, and the entire defense line is in danger. Kuro laughed sarcastically while sitting on the fighter plane. He looked down at the angry Mad Lion King. As long as the latter dares to step out of the range of the protective formation, the other party will die. Even if he doesn't step out of the protective formation, he will be able to kill him sooner or later. In short, Kuro has this line of defense. It's useless even if the Thousand Machine King and the Great Demon King come. The crazy Lion King no longer has confidence in his heart, and frantically asks for help from the Blue Star Alliance. What he is most worried about is that not only the line of defense he is defending, but other lines of defense have also encountered the same situation. If this is true, it is probably a matter of time before Blue Star falls. King of the Crazy Lion, are you desperate? Kuro continued to launch attacks, and did not forget to ridicule the King of the Crazy Lion, hitting the morale of the human soldiers. Bang! A huge explosion sounded not far away. The base of the 8th line of defense trembled suddenly. The heart of the Crazy Lion King also trembled, and his eyes looked at the source of the explosion, where a flame shot up into the sky, which was the flame of the explosion of the crystal of the defensive formation point. Every formation point that is broken will weaken the power of the defensive formation. If all the array points are broken, that will be the moment when the 8th line of defense falls. The crazy Lion King has the will but not the strength. He is different from other top kings. He has come to where he is today step by relying on his strong physical skills. Being restricted in the array, his abilities cannot be displayed. But if he rushes out, facing the 4 top kings plus a stronger top king Kuro, he will definitely die. Once he dies, the line of defense will only fall faster. This feeling makes the crazy Lion King extremely uncomfortable. He has never experienced the pain of struggling in despair. That senior has fought so hard for us, are we still going to fail? The crazy Lion King felt bitter. After more than a month of preparation, in the end, it is far less than what Luo Langxing prepared. Bang! Another explosion came. Another array point was lost. We can't just sit there and wait for death. The crazy Lion King was impatient. Facing this situation, he also knew that it was difficult for the Blue Star Alliance to rescue him, and perhaps the situation of other lines of defense was worse than his. At present, there is only one way to make the formation last longer. That is to find an opportunity to kill the Goblin King Kuro. Even if it costs his life, it is worth it to exchange 1 for 1. Continuing to defend will only lead to death. But it is also difficult to kill Kuro. Only by finding a perfect opportunity and using one's strongest forbidden technique can there be a slight possibility. Qinjun, you will control the protective formation. The crazy Lion King handed over the control of the formation to his companion Qinjun King. Qinjun King was originally one of the 5 kings guarding the Twin Towers, but the war was urgent, and the Blue Star Alliance could only recall him to assist the crazy Lion King in guarding the 8th line of defense. What are you doing? Qinjun King was puzzled. I will find an opportunity to kill Kuro later, you defend the formation, the crazy Lion King said in a heavy tone. Kill Kuro? No. Qinjun King was shocked and immediately stopped him. Not to mention that Kuro's strength at this time is obviously higher than that of the Mad Lion King. Even if the two are equally strong, Kuro is still protected by 4 top king level warriors. The chance of the Mad Lion King killing Kuro is very small. This is our only chance. The Mad Lion King smiled bitterly and said, if the formation is broken, we will have no chance of winning. Find a chance to kill Kuro, and you may be able to defend with the help of the formation. We can wait for the support of the Blue Star Alliance. King Qinjun still didn't want the Mad Lion King to take risks. Do you think the Blue Star Alliance can come to support us? The crazy Lion King shook his head. Among the crowned kings, only the 1000 Machine King and the Great Demon King are stronger than me. Even if the 10,000 Thunder King comes, he can't turn the tide in the face of this situation. Lauren Star has endless means, how much can the 2 of them do? Qinjun, you must remember that at any time, we can only rely on ourselves, and the help of others is an erratic fate. If you want to keep going on this road, you must firmly believe in yourself, instead of pinning your hopes on fate. Qinjun King was silent. He no longer dissuaded. The crazy Lion King laughed up to the sky. I dare not claim to be the first among the crowned kings, but in the field of physical skills, I am confident that I am above all the crowned kings. Qinjun, today I will let you see. What is it? The ultimate physical skill. Fiery red steam continued to emerge from the crazy Lion King's body. His rough, fiery red hair spread out. His skin even turned into a liquid state, flowing like magma. The crazy Lion King has loved physical training all his life. He firmly believes that if he trains his body to a certain level, he can also become a top-level strong man and reach the realm of God. Roar! With a roar, the crazy Lion King rushed out. His speed was so fast that the Lauren Star army outside did not react in time. In just a moment, the fiery red beast had killed Kuro. Kuro, who was sitting on the fighter plane, was shocked. At that moment, he actually felt the crisis of death. The powerful aura made it impossible for him to dodge, as if his nerve movement had entered an extremely slow state. He only had time to press the protection button on the fighter plane. The fiery red beast had already hit the fighter plane. When the two collided, the crazy Lion King held down the fighter plane and dragged it directly to the back of the battlefield. The four top King-level combat forces chased wildly from behind. The sudden change shocked both armies. During the attack, the Mad Lion King smashed the fighter shield with his fists. Bang! The fighter shield shattered. The Mad Lion King took the opportunity to kick Kuro in the head. The latter finally reacted, and the seat ejected, sending him out and escaping. He looked at the Mad Lion King like an out-of-control beast with a gloomy face, and was still frightened. The physical attack that was condensed to the extreme just now was too terrifying. It almost took his life. Boom! After failing to hit, the Mad Lion King attacked again. The ultimate physical skill burning with blood is his only belief in this life. This battle is a life-threatening one. He will definitely prove the brilliance of physical skills to the world. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Ming-Tong Shui. Chapter 355. Facing the crazy attack of the Mad Lion King, Kuro did not dare to risk his life. 3 high-level Forgotten Ones and another top king of Lowland Star have come to the rescue. The life of the Mad Lion King continued to burn, and at this moment he only had eyes for the Goblin King Kuro. Fiery red steam rose. The Mad Lion King whispered. He clenched his hands into fists and crossed them in front of his chest, and the fiery red steam formed a long rainbow behind him. This move is called Crazy Lion's Fearless Charge. It is also a desperate move to give up completely. The 4 top kings came to attack, but he had no intention of defending. His energy was firmly locked on the frightened Goblin King Kuro in the distance. Roar! He rushed towards Kuro again. Wherever it passes, the space is shattered. Using pure physical skills to shatter the void was the highest tribute to his faith in this life. A light lit up on Kuro's chest. The crazy Lion King had already rushed towards him, leaving no room for Kuro to dodge. The collision directly dented Kuro's chest. The bones all over the body were broken. At the same time, the attacks of the other 4 top kings of Lowland Star also fell on the Mad Lion King. The latter spit out a mouthful of blood. The breath of life is low. Roar! He gathered his last strength and shook the 4 top kings away. Not dead yet. He looked at the seriously injured Goblin King Kuro, his eyelids moved, and countless pictures danced in his mind. At this time, the Mad Lion King was about to run out of fuel, but he still did not give up. Instead, his fighting spirit burned even more fiercely. Kuro! The Mad Lion King's chi locked onto the Goblin King, raising his head proudly, witness the brilliance of life with me. Bet on the last blow of faith. Please remember its name. The name. The Lion King's funeral. In an instant, the crazy Lion King reached the pinnacle of his life. The 4 top kings were completely unable to stop him. Boom! One kick. Goblin King Kuro's head was instantly kicked away. It turned into ashes under the roaring Lion King's head. This kick also shattered Kuro's life source. At the same time, the crazy Lion King was also hit by the attacks of the 4 top kings. His body was still tough, but his life breath was weak. Kuro! The top king of Lowland Star quickly came to the dying Kuro. The 3 high-level Forgotten Ones are preparing to give the Mad Lion King a fatal blow. At this moment, something rushed over on the battlefield. The moment the 3 high-level Forgotten Ones fell, the light flashed and swept away the crazy Lion King. The senior Forgotten's eyes looked forward at the same time. There was also a war machine with 3 heads, 6 arms, and an extremely powerful aura. On War Machine's shoulder sat a girl wearing silver wire-rimmed glasses and a white lab coat. The girl's lips turned into a smile. She stretched out her hand, pushed the frame that had fallen on the bridge of her nose, and then lightly snapped her fingers. Let's go. At the foot of the war machine, flames spurted out, taking the girl and the dying crazy Lion King away. The senior Forgotten One still wanted to stop them, but the protective base in the distance suddenly shot out a beam of light, intercepting them abruptly. They can feel. In that fragmented blue star base, there were suddenly many powerful auras. Who is this person? The top king of Lowland Star looked at the leaving war machine and frowned. Compared to the war machine, he cared more about the human girl sitting on the shoulder of the war machine. Although the aura of the human girl was only in the feudal realm, it gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. At his level, such feelings would not arise out of thin air. It can only prove that this girl has the means to threaten him. It should be a human alchemist, right? The top king of Lowland Star asked the senior Forgotten One to check. Soon, a line of information was listed in front of him. Xianyuan Qing Qing, the third disciple of Thousand Machines King Su Xian. When he saw the words Thousand Machines King, Luo Langxing, the top king, couldn't help but become a little nervous. He knew how terrifying this sudden rise of king was. The youngest alchemist master in the history of Blue Star. I'm afraid this method is no longer within the capabilities of a master alchemist. It's terrible. The top king of Lowland Star lamented, just 1000 Machines King is enough to give people a headache. I didn't expect to cultivate such a difficult disciple. He always had a measuring range in his mind regarding Blue Star's alchemy level. But the sudden appearance of Xianyuan Qing Qing broke this range. Ahem. While he was thinking about it, Goblin King Kuro, who had no head on the ground and whose life essence was shattered, suddenly stood up. Something was beating in Kuro's chest. What a strong aura of chaos! A trace of greed flashed in the eyes of Luo Langxing, the top king. He thought that Clow would definitely die, but he didn't expect that he would survive like this. What kind of treasure is that holding Kuro's lifeline? Pause the attack. Kuro spoke again, his head grew back, and the breath of life slowly returned. On the other side, Xianyuan Qing Qing has returned to the 8th line of defense base on the Messenger of Justice. The soldiers cheered warmly. Although they didn't know this intellectual and elegant girl, it didn't affect their admiration for the hero at all. King Qinjun walked over quickly. Looking at the dying king of the lion who was held up by the Messenger of Justice, he was filled with grief and anger, and only hated himself for being incompetent and unable to help his elder brother. If it weren't for the alchemy grandmaster from Dragon Country to save the situation, the consequences would be disastrous. He barely saved his life. Xianyuan Qing Qing handed the king of the lion to King Qinjun, but it's impossible for him to join the battle next. As she said that, she threw out a few potions of strange colors. Give these things to him, and the rest depends on his luck. Thank you, Grandmaster. King Qinjun greeted respectfully. Although the girl in front of him was much younger than him and her realm was only a marquee, such a young alchemy grandmaster was already able to influence the situation of the war. She deserved his highest respect. He looked around, and thousands of puppets with the aura of a marquee were abiding by the protective formation. Obviously, these were all brought by the Dragon Country Alchemy Grandmaster. King Qinjun knew very well that the appearance of these puppets would be an important turning point in the Second World War. I'm so tired. Xianyuan Qing Qing stretched. In the past few months, she and Aurora have been buried in the laboratory of the Ula Alliance, working day and night to study the formula of Doll's sorrow. Finally, they succeeded in developing it at the last minute. Fortunately, they caught up with this war. I don't know how the teacher is doing. After calming down, the first thing she thought of was the teacher, and her mental power immediately drilled into the mind space. She felt a little proud that she could finally help the teacher. Immediately, she launched a series of emoticons in the mind space. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 356. Blue Star's third line of defense. Su Xian and Lin Suiying, who had solved the Lulan Star army, were preparing to go to other defense lines to support them. Buzz. At this moment, Su Xian felt the fluctuations in the space of his mind. He branched out a trace of mental power and entered the mind space. I saw a series of messages from Qing Qing, the third child. Teacher, the disciple is back. The alchemy formula you gave to your disciple has been developed. Teacher, where are you now? The disciple is currently on the 8th line of defense where the Bear Kingdom is stationed. There are some problems here. The Goblin King Kuro of Lowland Star seems to have mastered the technology to destroy the protective formation. The Crazy Lion King has been seriously injured in order to defend the defense and stop Kuro. The disciples and Grandmaster Aurora have created a total of 5,000 feudal-level dolls and have sent them to various fronts for support. Seeing that series of information, Su Xian immediately responded in the mental space. Ching Ching. Teacher. Well done, we actually developed the sorrow of the doll. In this way, the pressure on Blue Star's 17 lines of defense will be greatly reduced. You have made a great contribution this time. Xianyu and Qing Qing developed the doll of Shang, which played a vital role in this war. As a teacher, Su Xian was quite pleased. Lao San was immersed in various experiments every day, and finally proved himself in this life and death war. The teacher teaches well. If the teacher hadn't given the disciple the formula, I'm afraid it would have taken at least several decades for the disciple to reach that level. Xianyu and Qing Qing is a little proud in her heart, but she knows that the teacher is the eternal God. What are the details of Goblin King Kuro? Please tell me in detail, Su Xian asked again. According to the battle records, Kuro should have mastered a special technology that can disable the protective formation in a short time. I collected a special kind of chaotic aura from Kuro. If nothing else, that should be what he relies on. The Crazy Lion King tried his best to attack but still failed to kill Kuro completely. It seemed that it was that thing that hung his life. Xianyu and Qing Qing told the whole story. Su Xian thought for a moment, and it seemed that Luo Langxing was well prepared. Before the war started, the Blue Star Alliance might not have imagined that the first line of defense that was almost captured would be the 8th line of defense where the Mad Lion King was stationed. In Su Xian's intelligence memory, the strongest king of Lowland Star should be Blood Sea Shivari. Shivari of Lowland Star, like the great demon king of Blue Star, are both undefeated and top-notch warriors. Goblin King Kuro is probably still one level behind Shivari, and he doesn't know which line of defense Shivari is attacking at this time. I am afraid that except for him and the great demon king, it will be difficult for the other kings to stop Shivari. Teacher, what are your arrangements here? Xianyu and Qing Qing asked. You stay at the 8th line of defense for the time being. When the war slows down a bit, I will come back to you. There has been no news about Shivari in the Blood Sea from the Blue Star Alliance. It will be difficult for Su Xian to feel relieved unless Shivari is eliminated. Luo Langxing should also want to get rid of him, right? He didn't know what gift Luo Langxing had prepared for him. After waiting for a period of time at the 3rd line of defense base, the subpoena from the Blue Star Alliance was finally delivered. King Chongming, the Marshal of the 3rd Army Corps, immediately told Su Xian the news. On the 5th line of defense, Shivari of the Blood Sea appears. The top king, Tonghui King, who is sitting at the base of the defense line, sent the highest level distress signal, requesting support from the Blue Star Alliance. On the 8th line of defense, Goblin King Kuro appears. He is suspected of possessing special technology to crack the protective formation. The top king of the defense line, the Mad Lion King, sent the highest level distress signal, requesting support from the Blue Star Alliance. 2 highest level distress messages. Su Xian had learned about the 8th line of defense in advance through communication with Qing Qing in the mind space, and the crisis there was temporarily lifted. In this case, just lock Shivari. I'm going to the 5th line. Su Xian said something and took Lin Suiying and Lao Wuxin to a remote place. He took out the complete eternal ancient tree given to him by Moira and made it into a wooden staff. Be still and concentrate. Induction. In Su Xian's mind, 4 light spots appeared. The auras of these 4 light spots were very familiar to him. They were the 4 forbidden areas that had been broken. But the remaining energy of the 4 forbidden areas is still a huge resource. It can also be used as a strategic weapon. Su Xian concentrated his mind and selected one of the light spots. It was the Wailing Cave that was once one of the 4 forbidden places. Rushing to the 5th line of defense from the Screaming Cave saves a lot of time than rushing directly from here. It happened that Su Xian also wanted to try the effect of the wooden staff. Violent void fluctuations appear. It quickly condensed into a space channel. Su Xian and the other 2 stepped in one step. After a sudden spin, the light returned again, and the scene ahead had changed. A depressed, lonely place. The white insects that once occupied this area disappeared, leaving only a dead atmosphere. It's quite convenient. Lin Suiying smiled. Su Xian entered the Lulin Star alone in order to retrieve the complete eternal ancient tree, and she also came to this morning cave alone. The ban on the Wailing Cave was finally broken. The 3 of them left the Screaming Cave without any delay and immediately ran towards the 5th line of defense. From a distance, Su Xian smelled the bloody smell. Above the 5th defense line base, a huge eye was emitting a gray light to protect the last base. It should be the ability of the pupil Ghost King. The eye in the sky was full of bloodshot, and it was obviously about to reach its limit. If he came a little later, I am afraid that the entire 5th defense line base would be submerged in the sea of blood. Shivali gave him a strong feeling. He was much stronger than any king of Lauren Star he had met. In terms of the momentum he showed, he was even stronger than some demigods. Compared with the low-key Great Demon King, the arrogance of the Blood Sea Shivali was not concealed, so his expression was far better than that of the seemingly dull and lifeless Great Demon King. You should be careful. The momentum of the Blood Sea made Lin Suiying a little worried, and she held Su Xian's hand tightly. Don't worry. Su Xian raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. I said I would kill them all, and I would definitely kill them, no matter who came, including this Blood Sea Shivali. Lin Suiying smiled slightly. She believed that Su Xian could do it. The 3 of them kept moving forward. Su Xian did not hide himself at all, and his domineering aura continued to spread. Suihai Shivari, who was attacking the 5th line of defense, also sensed Su Xian's arrival. He looked over here from a distance. Su Xian's eyes did not avoid him either. The strongest kings of the 2 worlds finally met at this moment. Although it was only the first meeting, the killing intent of the 2 reached its peak in an instant. Killing the strongest person in the enemy camp. It is undoubtedly an exciting thing. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 357. Su Xian's arrival caused Shivari to stop attacking the 5th line of defense base. Facing such a strong Su Xian, Shivari also knew that he could no longer win the base of the 5th line of defense in this battle. While he was surprised at why the King of Thousand Machines provided support so quickly, he was also a little surprised. He eagerly wanted to fight with the newly rising Blue Star's strongest king. King of Thousand Machines. The sound of rolling thunder came from the sea of blood. Shivari. Su Xianling felt empty. In front of the vast sea of blood, his figure seemed small, but his momentum was not inferior to that of the rolling sea of blood, as if he was the center of this world. Over the base, the eyes of Sakura Kingdom's Ghost King dispersed. "Thank you King Kinji for saving me." Tongui King bowed and thanked him. It wasn't until this moment that he realized how big the gap was between himself and the most powerful king. It is unimaginable that the Dragon Kingdom has two such powerful kings. He felt bitter in his heart, and no matter how proud he was, he had to admit that Sakura country was still too weak in front of Dragon country, and its foundation was not comparable to Sakura country after all. The collision of the two great kings split the world into two halves. "King Thousand Machines, how about you and I fighting alone?" The voice of Shivara in the Blood Sea echoed within thousands of miles, and even Su Xian could not capture his true form. "It's what I asked for." Su Xian did not refuse. It is estimated that Shivara had the same idea at this time. Killing the strongest person on the other side would tilt the balance of this war to the greatest extent. He didn't know where Shivara's confidence lay. But he knew that Shivara would not be able to defeat him. "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" Shivara ordered all Lawrence Star teams to retreat. "Don't take action either." Su Xian also asked the soldiers on the fifth line of defense to watch the battle. The soldiers on both sides were nervously watching this battle, which was destined to be earth-shattering and recorded in the history of both worlds. After all, is it possible that Shivara of the Blood Sea, who has dominated the king realm of Lowland Star for hundreds of years, can continue to maintain his dominance? Or is the newly promoted Miracle Light Thousand Machines King Su Xian better? Everyone is looking forward to it. The meteor blade and the demonic sword Apophis appeared in Su Xian's hands. Behind the scenes, thousands of opportunities turned into spears, ready to go. The thousand machines that grew up with Su Xian has now grown to a quality comparable to mythical weapons. As for the magic sword Apophis, just become a fool. By default, the big liar temporarily became his own master. I agreed to help only once, but in the end I fell into it stupidly. Although he always made some arrogant remarks before every battle, when used by Su Xian, his body was very honest. The other 8 pieces of mythical quality equipment were also activated silently. Su Xian flew directly over the Blood Sea. Shivara's arrogant laughter came out, "King of Thousand Machines, let me see how strong you are, the strongest king in the history of Blue Star who has repeatedly broken the history of Blue Star." As the words fell, thousands of figures rushed out from the sea of blood. Every silhouette contains a powerful aura. Thousands of figures shot towards Su Xian at the same time. Su Xian was still hanging there, slashing with the sword in his hand. Those blood-red figures were instantly chopped into pieces, but they turned into more clones and attacked. Is it another split? Su Xian has long been experienced in dealing with this method. The doughty forbidden technique operates. The huge gluttonous figure appeared and swallowed all the blood-red clones in one bite. Boom! The moment the clone was swallowed, a huge wave rose into the sky from the sea of blood. The huge waves were surrounded by small, sharp blood arrows. Whoosh whoosh! Blood arrows and huge waves rushed towards Su Xian at the same time, and the doughty forbidden technique continued to swallow those blood products. But the blood sea did not seem to weaken. This made Su Xian slightly surprised. It seems that the sea of blood is not Shivara itself. No wonder this guy has no intention of retreating when he sees himself devouring it. He does not feel any pure energy after devouring those blood products. Seeing this, Su Xian no longer defended, but dived directly towards the sea of blood with his sword in hand. The thousand machine spears continued to gather power behind him. As long as Shivara's true aura is leaked, he will immediately shoot out the thousand machine spear without giving his opponent a chance. But Shivara is indeed cautious. Su Xian has activated the insight into weaknesses effect of the guidance of the morning star, and has not yet found out where Shivara's weakness is. It's normal to think about it. In a confrontation of this level, the effect of a single piece of equipment no longer has absolute power. Chivalry should also be wearing mythical quality equipment. The sword slashes with both swords. The flash of swords and shadows crisscrossed the sea of blood. The sea of blood was cut open by the sword energy and the blade, and then gathered together, endless. No matter how many times it was chopped open by Su Xian, its momentum was still so raging. The armies of both sides watching from a distance were even more nervous than the two protagonists who were fighting. They didn't dare to take a breath, and they couldn't tell who was the advantage and who was the disadvantage at this moment. But they know that no matter which side loses, it will be an extremely heavy blow to the world where that side is located. It can be said that their fate is controlled by those two people. King Thousand Machines, you are very strong. Shivara's voice echoed in the sea of blood. But if you continue to spend like this, you may lose. The level of Blue Star's strongest king shouldn't be just this, show your strongest level. If I just beat you like this, I won't have any sense of accomplishment, and winning will be boring. Su Xian had to admit it. In terms of pretense, Shivali could be called the strongest king of Lauren Star. God's blessing. Su Xian stopped playing and immediately turned on the God's blessing state. Facing the endless blood sea clones, he didn't want to be consumed like this. God's power attached. On the magic sword, the edge of destruction bloomed. The streamer star blade was brilliant, and the infinite universe gravity was attracted. Swish. The sword slashed. This time, the blood sea was completely evaporated. Su Xian kept running the big star disk in his mind, calculating Shivali's position. Hit by the attack attached with the power of God, Shivali's breath finally appeared. Got you. The Thousand Machine Spear behind Su Xian shot out suddenly. The Thousand Machine Spear, which had been accumulating for a long time, was so fast that it directly penetrated the space and nailed towards the distance. Puff. Something there was pierced by the flying spear, and it dissipated with a puff. At that moment, Su Xian felt the shock of the blood sea. Even the scope of the blood sea was shrinking rapidly. Su Xian sneered, Shivali, is this what you call boring? If the strongest king of Lulan Star only has this little trick, I would also find it boring. Su Xian knew that Shivali could pass the 45th floor of the Death Tower, and he must have the physical and mental strength to compete with the demigod level in a short period of time, or even suppress it. Even if Shivali is a weak player, it is impossible for him to have no means of attack. Just relying on this endless life form, he cannot be the strongest king of Lulan Star. 10,000 times return, I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 358. The moment the Thousand Machine Spear pierced Shivali, Su Xian had already locked onto Shivali's aura. Even with the obstruction of the vast sea of blood, he still grasped the vague perception. The blessing of the divine blessing state made the defense of the sea of blood completely ineffective. No matter what Shivali conjured up, it would be easily chopped into pieces by Su Xian. Boom. Finally, the figure in the sea of blood could no longer be hidden. A feminine man with a terrifyingly pale face emerged from the sea of blood. There was a big hole pierced by a spear on his chest, which was slowly healing. The power of God was attached to it and could not be expelled. This was why Su Xian was able to lock onto him. King of Thousand Machines, I underestimated you. Shivali laughed creepily, and he slowly raised his palm, with a strange eye on his palm. Whoosh. Su Xian moved his mind, and the Thousand Machine Spear shot out again. Curse. Blood puppet. Shivali recited the spell softly. Puff. The Thousand Machine Spear pierced through Shivali's body, but this time it did not cause any more damage to him. At the same time, a marquee of the Lulan Star army in the back suddenly exploded and turned into a pool of blood. Su Xian also clearly felt that the damage from the Thousand Machine Spear just now was transferred. It seems that Shivali is finally going to get serious. Come on, king of thousand machines. Chevalier grinned, you are qualified to let me use my full strength. It will be your honor to die in my hands. Blurred faces appeared on his body. Swish. The next moment, a drop of blood fell, and Chevalier had rushed to Su Xian's side, and his arm covered with strange faces swung towards Su Xian. Su Xian immediately retreated and slashed with the sword at the same time. This sword pierced through Chevalier again and was transferred to the body of a Marquis of the Lulan Star army. At the same time, the strange face on Chevalier also faded. The subtle changes did not escape Su Xian's eyes. Damage transfer. Although Su Xian had never come into contact with this kind of forbidden technique, he knew that any forbidden technique would come at a price. Just like the divine blessing he was using now. The duration was only 5 minutes, but the cooling time was 14 days. If it was used forcibly, not only would the equipment be scrapped, but the unstable power would also damage the foundation of the body. He didn't know what the price was for Chevalier to use this technique. But as long as it dragged on for a while, Chevalier would definitely lose. Although he still had more means to easily crush Chevalier, it was better to hide some trump cards when the situation was uncertain. While showing enough threats, he should also restrain himself appropriately. Every time Su Xian swung his sword, he would definitely cut off a strange face on Chevalier's body. The two sides confronted each other like this. Chevalier had been trying to get close to Su Xian, but the latter did not give him any chance. Lulan Star had many strange means, and Su Xian had always been on guard. Since he was almost killed by Daisy's same body attack for no reason last time, he has been much more careful. In terms of combat power, Chevalier is much stronger than Daisy. Maybe Chevalier has mastered Daisy's methods. Last time, he escaped with the crystal of the Fountain of Life returned by the system, but this time there is no crystal of the Fountain of Life. The collision of the strongest kings in the two worlds was so fierce that the sky was dark. The armies of both sides looked at each other from a distance. They could no longer catch the figures of the two. Is the gap so big? The seriously injured Tong Guiwang smiled bitterly. If he joined in this level of battle, he would probably die after a few rounds. The collision of the strongest kings in the two worlds. It was completely different from theirs. Sure enough, only when the real war comes, it is the time to test the strong. Witnessing this great battle with his own eyes, Tong Guiwang's state of mind has been affected. On the road leading to the realm of God, another threshold has been built invisibly. There are swords and shadows ahead. Chevalier didn't know how many times he was cut. At this time, only the last 4 weird faces were left on his body. And Su Xian's divine blessing state is about to end. King Qinji, you are almost at your limit, right? Chevalier laughed sarcastically, what if you have such a strong power? You can't hurt me at all, let alone kill me. Sitting in the sea of blood, Chevalier's observation is more detailed than Su Xian. From the fact that Su Xian's speed is getting faster and faster, he knows that Su Xian is about to reach his limit. King Qinji's realm is not as good as his after all. What if he relies on external forces to compete with him? In the end, he will die in his hands. Killing the strongest king of Blue Star, Chevalier is a little excited when he thinks about it, and his feat will also become the turning point of the second war between the two worlds. Chevalier will be sublimated to the extreme after killing the strongest king of Blue Star with his own hands. Step into the demigod. Even become the strongest demigod, and finally ascend to the realm of God. Chevalier, have you ever felt the fear of death? At this moment of the battle, Su Xian also admitted that Chevalier is very strong and a rare opponent. Chevalier did have extraordinary means to pass the 45th floor of the Death Tower and sit firmly on the throne of the first king of Lulan Star. Eternal glory. Su Xian whispered, and the eternal glory suit burst into brilliant light at the same time. The suit effect was activated. Facing the invincible Chevalier, Su Xian didn't want to drag it on any longer. It was not until this moment that Su Xian showed what equipment crushing was. 3 mythical weapons. 8 mythical equipment. At this time, it was time to really fire at full power. Whoosh! Su Xian slashed out with the sword in his hand again. This sword was weaker than before. Shivali frowned, and a strong sense of uneasiness rose in his heart. Su Xian's sudden weakening of the attack did not make him happy, but his soul trembled. In the dark, he felt that his soul was locked by something. Blood Sea Netherworld. Such a dangerous intuition made Shivali dare not hold back any more. Gurgle. Gurgle. The Blood Sea was churning at this moment, like a boiling blood purgatory. Su Xian only felt a strong pressure all over his body, as if a big hand was pressing on his head, trying to press him into the boiling blood sea. Even his mental power was bound. It was as if an invisible netherworld chain directly locked his soul. The pale face of Shivali in front of him actually showed blood color, and it became redder, and soon turned into a bloody monster. Both sides began to use the final killing moves. The netherworld chain bound Su Xian's soul. As long as he moved, the chain would be pulled tighter and tighter, giving him a strong sense of suffocation. Being in the center of the sea of blood, he had no way to avoid this attack. Eternal glory. Explosion. But Su Xian still made a move. The second sword was slashed out. It was still a simple sword. Shivali could feel a special mark on the locked soul, and the power of Su Xian's second attack was the source of the mark. He tried his best to erase it, but it was just a futile struggle. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 359. Boom. The seal of eternal glory exploded. Double kill. Soul, explode. In an instant, the entire blood sea was turbulent, and the waves rolled thousands of meters into the sky. The entire fifth line of defense. All life heard an extremely shrill scream. After the rage, the blood sea began to evaporate at an astonishing speed. The netherworld chains also continued to suppress Su Xian's soul. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Su Xian heard his heart beating faster and faster, and a feeling of suffocation surged into his heart. He knew that this was Shivali's last counterattack. In the distance, the Blue Star Army cheered enthusiastically. They all saw the changes in the blood sea. Shivali's screams were even more miserable. Is the strongest king of Lulan Star going to be killed by the strongest king of Blue Star, Qinji King? Are they going to witness a historic moment? Everyone is looking forward to it. If this battle is won, the great achievements of the Thousand Machine King will be passed down forever. In such a critical situation, if the Thousand Machine King really kills Shivali, it will be a feat that can turn the tide. They are looking forward to it, but also worried. At this moment, they can't see Su Xian. The dust has not settled yet, and they dare not guarantee that the Thousand Machine King will win. The 1,000-mile blood sea keeps shrinking. 800 miles. 500 miles. 300 miles. 100 miles. 50 miles. The Lulan Star Army looked at the scene with a dead heart. The shrinking blood sea was like their hearts being squeezed by an invisible big hand. It seemed that their lifeblood could be cut off at any time. Just when the blood sea shrank to a range of only 10 miles, it suddenly burst open. Whoosh! 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 The bursting blood sea turned into 4 blood rainbows, fleeing to the 4 directions of the 2 worlds' battlefield, namely the southeast, northwest, and northeast. Shivali knew that he had failed. In terms of direct combat power, he is not as good as the strongest Qinji King on Blue Star. But his survivability is definitely not that simple. As long as Qinji King cannot kill him, he will definitely have the hope of making a comeback. The speed of the 4 blood rainbows escaping was too fast. In just a moment, they flew thousands of miles away, and they fled in 4 directions. In Su Xian's perception, the 4 blood rainbows all contain the life source of Shivali. Given the special nature of Shivali as a vampire, it is very likely that as long as any blood rainbow escapes, Shivali may survive. It is useless to chase any blood rainbow alone. Su Xian stood in place. The eternal ancient tree staff appeared in his hand. Trapped by the netherworld chain, his mental power was also being rapidly consumed, and his perception of the 4 forbidden areas was much weaker. He locked onto the 4 fleeing blood rainbows from a distance. Mental power burst out. The remaining energy in the 4 forbidden areas seemed to be sensed. 4 golden arrows condensed and shot out from the forbidden area, heading towards the 4 long rainbows transformed by Shivali. Shivali, who thought he had escaped, also sensed the crisis. He had already fled to the edge of the battlefield between the 2 worlds, but saw a golden arrow shooting at him. All 4 clones were locked by the golden arrow. How is it possible? Shivali was shocked. He had already escaped here, but the King of Thousand Machines still had the means to attack him, and locked his 4 clones at the same time. No. I won't die. I won't die. Facing 4 golden arrows, Shivali had no ability to resist. Puff. The golden arrow passed through the blood rainbow. The blood was swallowed by the chaotic energy of the forbidden land. Shivali's consciousness gradually blurred. No. I will definitely not die. I am the first genius of the blood clan. I am the strongest king of Lowland Star. I am Shivali of the Blood Sea. The golden arrow dissipated. Finally, a drop of blood fell into the soil. The blood soaked the soil and greedily attached the soil to the earthworms that were drilling into the ground. The earthworm grew rapidly, from the length of a little finger to the length of an arm. Not dead. I'm not dead yet. Shivali was excited. Although he was extremely weak at this time, with his ability, as long as he survived, he would soon be able to recover to his peak. With his status, as long as he returned to the blood clan, the clan members would definitely feed him a lot of blood food. After such a high-intensity battle, Su Xian should be close to his limit. As long as he hides here and grows slowly, Su Xian will not be able to find him. One day, he will take back the title of the strongest king. And this battle will not be too far away. After knowing Su Xian's methods, Shivali also knew how to deal with it next time. Shivali, who turned into a big earthworm, drilled deep into the forest. Now he needed to absorb more food to recover himself. Any animal that he touched would be swallowed immediately. After a full meal, Shivali recovered a lot and was finally able to use the blood clan's true body, but he still hid carefully. He was not sure whether Su Xian would find him. Bound by the nether chains, he estimated that Su Xian should be at the end of his strength at this time. But he didn't dare to gamble. Just as he devoured another Tianhe level creature, he suddenly felt a cold breath coming from not far away. What a tempting blood food! Shivali was overjoyed. Although he was down and out now, with his soul strength, it was easy for him to devour creatures around the marquee level. Smelling the breath, Shivali kept approaching the source. Soon he saw a girl walking on the mountain path, with white hair falling like a galaxy, extending to her calves. Wherever she passed, the soil was frosted and everything was frozen. Human race. After Shivari recognized the identity of the girl Blue Star Human, she had a better idea in mind. He concealed his breath and slowly leaned towards the girl. The girl seemed to be a little out of her mind. She didn't care about her surroundings at all. She just walked around aimlessly step by step. Whoosh! As the girl approached, Shivari got angry. The blood flashed and clung to the back of the girl's white hand, trying to get into her body. At this moment, the girl also felt something strange. A layer of white frost instantly formed on her arm, and the blood was blocked and flowed towards other parts of the girl's body, but the frost spread faster. In an instant, the girl turned into a white-haired doll. Shivaru was shocked. He didn't expect that a mere feudal state could be so difficult to deal with. Netherworld. He immediately used the Divine Soul technique, trying to pry open the girl's mental defense first. But after colliding with the girl's spiritual power, he discovered that the human girl in front of him was far from being as simple as he imagined. There were actually two soul powers that were connected to each other in the girl's body. Oops. He wanted to escape, but was suppressed by the spiritual power as thick as an abyss. In a daze, it seemed as if there was a demon king emerging from the abyss and towering over him. If it were a period of complete victory, he would naturally not feel fear, but at this moment, he was instinctively frightened when faced with this kind of power. Meanwhile, the fifth line of defense. With Shivaru's defeat, Lauren's army was massacred again. The blood puppet technique used by Shivaru almost sacrificed all the high-end combat power of the Lowland Star. When the war started again, the outcome was already doomed. 10,000 times return. I am a mentor in the Novice Village. Author, Mingtong Shui. Chapter 360. The dust has settled on the fifth line of defense battle. Su Xian got rid of the shackles of the netherworld chain. He looked into the distance. Shivaru had used his last means of escape and fled to the four poles of the battlefield between the two realms. And he was bound by the chains of the netherworld, which consumed a lot of energy and was unable to track him. He could only rely on the wooden staff to control the four forbidden areas, and gather the remaining energy to launch the final pursuit of Shivaru. That blow was enough to kill Shivaru's clone. But Shivaru is too special and may not be completely killed so easily. The first thing he did after regaining his mental strength was Su Xian immediately ran the big astrolabe to calculate Shivaru's position. Star maps emerged one after another. Su Xian closed his eyes slightly and used the shadows of thousands of stars to deduce. On the star map, red light flashed away. Sure enough, he's not dead. Somehow, Su Xian sensed the location of Shivaru, which was close to the forbidden area source of plague, where there should be hundreds of thousands of green mountains. Su Xian, how are you? Seeing her husband frowning, Lin Suiying asked with concern. Shivaru is not dead yet. Su Suandeo, his life form is extraordinary. As long as a drop of blood escapes, the clone can recover quickly. It is a great danger to Blue Star. What should we do? Of course it's to avoid future troubles. Su Xian didn't want to let Chivali go just like that. He had already tracked Chivali's approximate location. Shivaru must not have recovered much in such a short period of time. If he chased him now, Shivaru would most likely not be able to escape. You stay on the fifth line of defense for now. I'll go after him and be back soon. At this point in the battle, Su Xian had no reason to hold back and wanted to kill Shivaru no matter what. Well, I'll wait for you, Lin Suiying nodded. The threat from Shivaru is indeed great. Even if they meet next time, Shivaru will still not be Su Xian's opponent, but Shivaru's performance is undoubtedly crushing to the other kings of Blue Star. Wu Xian, you also stay on the fifth line of defense. Su Xian warned Wu Xian again. The latter said nothing. He just nodded silently. Su Xian took out his wooden staff and once again sensed the location of the source of the plague, one of the four forbidden areas, and quickly completed the lock. After using it a few times, he became much more comfortable with it. Violent spatial fluctuations appeared. Step into the space channel. When he appeared again, he was already at the outskirts of the source of the plague. The wooden staff greatly increased his traveling efficiency, allowing him to shuttle back and forth among the four forbidden areas in a very short period of time, greatly improving his strategic support capabilities. The great astrolabe moves again. Su Xian's perception was much clearer this time. Shivaru. Su Xian looked at the Shiwenkingshan mountains in the distance. Shivara's remaining life clone was among the Shiwankingshan mountains. Not only that, he also felt another familiar aura. It's just that compared to the lively and casual atmosphere in the past, this time it's a little bit more frosty and cold. Whoosh! Su Xian's speed increased a little, and he followed the breath and escaped into Shiwankingshan. The cold air ahead is getting stronger and stronger. It was colliding fiercely with the smell of blood. Xiaoshuang seems to have become much more powerful. Su Xian felt that Yin Xiaoshuang was very different now from before. That icy cold breath should be caused by the awakening of some special physique. Soon he saw that several large mountains ahead were completely covered in ice. Even flying birds were frozen in mid-air. Su Xian walked into the frost. This level of frost naturally had no effect on him. King of Thousand Machines. Suihai Shivali, who was fighting with Yin Xiaoshuang, was shocked. He didn't expect Su Xian to find this place so quickly, and Su Xian recovered much faster than him. At this time, Su Xian wanted to kill him as easily as squeezing an ant to death. The moment the figure shrouded in frost saw Su Xian, he fell into a strange state, as if he had recalled something. His eyes lost a trace of confusion and gained a sense of clarity. Su Xian made a casual move. Shivara's last life clone was easily captured in his hands. At this time, he had no time to pay attention to Shivara, so he banned him and threw him into the small black room of the life space of breath of encirclement. His eyes fell on the white-haired girl in front of him. Yin Xiaoshuang is no longer the lively and sunny person she was before, more like a soulless walking corpse, but she is not completely lost in it. When Zhang Mu was forced into the abyss, Yin Xiaoshuang disappeared into the battlefield between the two realms. He used the astrolabe technique to calculate that Yin Xiaoshuang's trip would be equally good and bad. With his fate uncertain, he did not insist on looking for Yin Xiaoshuang again. I didn't expect Xiaoshuang to become like this. That whole head of white hair makes people feel distressed. Xiaoshuang! Su Xian shouted, and at the same time cast the supreme meditation charm to help Yin Xiaoshuang recover from the mental state of a walking corpse. Yin Xiaoshuang's pupils showed a trace of excitement. Pupils dilate and contract. The chill on her body became lighter and lighter. Finally regained clarity. Looking at the figure in front of her, Yin Xiaoshuang stood there blankly in a daze. She seemed to have seen the scene when she first met Master and Zhang Mu in the student apartment of Dingai Prince's mansion more than 2 years ago. The scene echoed in her mind. At the beginning, she just wanted to earn a chaos stone, so she trained with Du Mumu. But she didn't want to. During the training day and night, she had a strange feeling towards Zhang Mu when she was with him day and night. Although Damu didn't know how to be funny, he had a unique personality charm. He could stick to anything he did, and no one could shake Damu's heart. He was like a real piece of Damu. Later, she and Damu concluded the art of the same heart and vein. The hearts of the two were even more tightly tied together. They went through a lot of ups and downs on the battlefield together, and almost died together several times. Until the emergence of the Black Plague. Yin Xiaoshuang knew that her heart was still beating, and Damu must not be dead, but she was very afraid that Damu would become an infected body of the Black Plague. So she walked along the 10,000 green mountains all the way to the source of the forbidden plague. She had only one belief in her heart. No matter what Damu became, she must be with her, forever. Then, the memory in her mind suddenly became confused. Her body mutated one day, and she felt very cold, so cold that her consciousness became blurred. The memory was intermittent. She seemed to have killed many lives and swallowed a lot of cold spring water. She couldn't remember what happened next. Only the voice of her subconscious kept reminding herself to find him. She must find him. Find him. Find the wood. Yin Xiaoshuang murmured. The spirit in her eyes gradually increased. At a certain moment, she suddenly regained clarity, and 2 lines of tears flowed from her eyes.